Downtown Development Authority regular meeting for Monday, February 6, 2023 at 7 p.m. Elizabeth, can you do a roll call, please?
Sure. Tar?
Here.
St. Laurent?
Here.
Lee?
Here.
Brandt?
Here.
Rose?
Here.
Hayes?
Here.
Poznansky?
Here.
McLeod is absent. Hutnick?
Here.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, next we'll do the pledge. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first up we have public forum. Is anybody here for public forum? Oh, come on up to the podium.
Sharon Smith, 377 North Main. The Chili Fest was awesome. I went and tried everything. It was great. One of the things I was walking around town, and I don't know if this is something that had been thought about, but a really prominent information booth, to me, was missing. And I heard from a few people that I would hear, you know, as I was going through, I went and had an awesome milkshake after the hot chili. You know, a few people saying, where's this, or where's that, or what's going on? And I don't know if that had ever been something that was thought of, or if there was one. It wasn't very prominent, but that was all. I used to live in Salem, Massachusetts for like 30 years, and it was like there was stuff going on all the time. And there was a central information booth, and people, you know, luckily people were on top of each other volunteering for it. And that, you know, if we did have one, I'd certainly volunteer to you know, person up a info booth.
And we can, if you're interested, we can get you on the email list for volunteers because there's a weekly meeting that takes place if you're looking to get involved.
Yeah,
So,
would love to. Thank you.
And we did, with the information booth was the State Farm tent. That was in Marketplace Alley. So we had all that. We had volunteers there all day, so, yeah.
Great.
But a better sign would definitely be.
Yeah, it wasn't very prominent.
No, that's okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
all right, anybody else for public forum? All right, at this time, we'll close public forum, and next we'll need an approval of the agenda as presented. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make it.
I have a motion by Tar. Do we have a second?
Support.
Second by President Poznansky. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We have an approved agenda. Moving on, we'll do these one at a time since there are three separate sets of minutes because we had 3 meetings in January, which I think is a record. So first up, we have the regular January 9th, 2023 meeting minutes.
I just happened to notice, in the beginning, it says that Kellogg is absent, but in number 5 and number 6, there was motion or support by Kellogg. And then
Oh, gosh.
and then
okay.
number 12, there was motion by
Okay,
Malzahn.
I'm sorry, could you go back to the beginning? Oh,
Okay.
gotcha, absent, uh-huh.
Said she was, I just noticed it, and then number 5, there was motion by Kellogg, number 6, support by Kellogg. And then in number 12, there's a motion by Malzahn, but she wasn't here.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Did you just notice that today?
I just noticed it.
Oh, you did? Okay,
Yeah,
thank
when
you
I
for
was
catching
sitting
that.
here.
No problem.
I'm trying to,
So then on that note, I guess, Malzahn was not here, then she should be listed as absent?
I
no,
don't-
she wasn't
she's no
on
longer
the
president
board.
at that
She wasn't.
She wasn't even on the board.
anymore.
So that's an error
Kel-
on my part, so I
So
apologize.
Kellogg actually is the one that should not be absent, she wasn't on the board.
No,
No,
Kellogg would have
was
been on the board
but she
at that
wasn't
time.
absent.
She just wouldn't have been able to make a motion if she was
Gotcha.
absent.
So was she
So I'm trying to.
absent or
Who
was
actually
she here?
made the
I think she was absent.
I believe she was
She
absent.
was absent because she was sick.
Yeah, she was. So I guess maybe we should table the approval of these minutes and get further clarification and approve them at the next meeting, because I can't go off memory and know who made those motions or who
Sure.
supported.
And
So
I'll look back at my
Okay.
notes for sure. Okay.
thanks for catching that, Danielle. So let's table the approval of the January 9th, 2023 regular meetings. Do I need a motion to table that?
I don't think so.
We can just.
You can just table it,
All
yeah.
right. All right, so next we have line item B, the January 19th, 2023 special meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve those minutes as presented.
I have a motion by President Poznanski to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by St. Laurent. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, carries. Those are approved. Next, we have the January 25th, 2023 special meeting minutes for approval. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make,
Motion by Brandt. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Lee. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We have an approval of those minutes. Moving on to the financial report, presentation by the executive director.
Sure. So the financial statements are year-to-date from July 1, 2022 to January 30, 2023. The month was closed prior to the end of the month due to the timing of the board meeting. All transactions are included with the exception of interest income for the month of January. Collected revenue was a total of $1,300 related to Winterfest sponsorships, so that's in addition to what we already had budgeted. Total bills presented for approval are $86,693.83. The reason that number is so huge is because the $80,000 is for the cost share for the crosswalk project. So that closes out that line item from there. Work completed in January 2023. The bookkeeper, Rebecca, entered all invoices, checks, and processed payroll. Plant Moran closed the month out through January 30th and prepared schedules for the board packet. And all of the financials are attached, as you can see.
Which I will just, as a heads up or an update, that was a $90,000 cost share. You already gave 10, so that's why it's only 80 right now, if anyone had a question.
Correct.
I have a question. On some of the bills here, I'm
What
just
do you,
not familiar.
What are you looking at?
Oh, the transaction list? On the bottom, can you just kind of go over what they're for? Some of them just have like a person's name.
Sure. So from, and the writing is so
Stones, I got
small.
that one, I guess.
Yeah,
Cold-
that's okay.
Cold frame and then,
Yep, so Cold Frame was the last payment for the Christmas, and no, those are great questions, Andrea, so thank you for asking. So Stone's Ace Hardware, we have an account at Ace, and so we get a bill once a month for expenses, and so some of those things were for some of the Christmas things that when Carl put the lights up and whatnot, and sometimes there's just a couple supplies we get from time to time. Cold Frame, that was the final payment for the Christmas lights and greens, that was the third payment. Plant Moran, that's for our accounting. First National Bank of Omaha, that's our credit card. Romeo Printing, that was for, related to Winterfest expenses. FAMS was related to Winterfest expenses. And then the rest of those, aside from the $80,000 check to the Village of Romeo, and aside from, so Joan Den, she had done some decorating in Marketplace, Starkweather Alley of some greens with some extra things. She cleaned out the beds. And the rest of those individuals from Gina Jordan Music on down to Tom Moore, those are all musicians or performers from Winterfest, sorry.
okay, thanks.
Yep. And anytime you want to see those in person, you're welcome to see the bills and such.
What was Todd Ballinger?
Well, without having those in front of me, what's the amount for?
200.
I would imagine that's one of our, it's either a performer or it's a, thank you. Okay,
That's for the photo booth.
yep.
So, you mentioned some of these were performers.
Correct.
We did not pay all performers the same amount?
We do not, no, and that's pretty common. When we looked at doing our summer concert series, we were trying to figure out, when we did our research on that for the summer, do any municipalities or do any DDAs pay the same flat rate? And the overwhelming response was no, because some people just want to do it because they love it. Other people are like, nope, we're really popular and this is our fee, and so forth. So to answer those who chose to, who said, no, we just don't want to do it, we ended up, our music volunteer coordinator, Suzanne Rock, she created gift packages for them, and Youngers donated $10 gift cards to 22 separate musicians. in addition to some other things that we purchased and had those under our Winterfest expenses.
Whoever played at the chili cook-off was fabulous.
Weren't they awesome?
they were
Yeah.
I got their
they're-
card for porch bands this summer.
They're the ones that we met on the blanket next to us at the Jack Johnson
That's what she
concert.
told me.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really, really awesome. I think somebody reached out to her that day for performing during Peach Fest. So I said, book it, because we'd love to have you back. So, yeah,
They were great.
they're a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you liked them.
I'm sorry, one more request too. In months past, you've had, I know you've got your, the credit card line item on here. You've had the statement in the past, not on
Yes.
this one.
That credit card statement you saw in last month's board packet, because of the way that it shows up in the report. So this one didn't come in time, the bill wasn't in time, and that wouldn't be paid till next month, so,
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, it's
So
usually
shy of
there.
that dating, normally you're going to have it here.
Yep,
Okay,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so as long as there's no more questions in regards to the bills, can we have a motion to approve payment of bills through January 30th, 2023 in the amount of $86,693.83?
I'll make it.
Motion by Tar, do we have a second?
Support it.
We have a second by Brandt. Elizabeth, can you do a roll, please?
Sure, Poznanski,
Yes?
Rose,
Yes?
Brandt,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hayes,
Abstain,
for purpose of,
because one of the checks is going to me.
okay, I just had to have that stated, so,
Sure.
okay, thank you. Tar? St. Laurent?
Yes.
Hutnick?
Yes.
All right. Next up, we have the DDA Executive Director's Report by Elizabeth Miller. Floor is yours.
Sure. Okay, so downtown Romeo in the news, we've been in the news a little bit, more since this happened, so that'll be in next month's report. I just found out WXYZ did a story on us this weekend, which I wasn't aware of. Our very own Madison Roush has been featured in the Four County Community Foundation's announcement of the Summer 2023 Return to Earn Internship Initiative. We are honored to be included in promoting this valuable program, and the full announcement is attached and can be also found online. Met with Kathy Dickens from Four County Community Foundation last week. Zach and I had the pleasure of sitting down with her, and we said, well, where does that go? And she said, everywhere. It's been released everywhere. So that's pretty exciting. She's kind of using Madison as her poster child for the program because it's one of the few programs where there was a hire after the internship. So we're very proud of that. The Romeo DDA podcast episode for In My Downtown was postponed until February with our move and many other things. It was hard to know what to focus on, and so we chose to postpone that until late February. Online newsletters via our MailChimp continue to be an effective way to communicate with our central business district and the general newsletter. Several have gone out in the month of February. We have received many comments on how it's being utilized to learn what's happening downtown and how they can be more involved. We received several donations for our new office location as a result. Resident Chris Troy produced another promotional video for us, and the latest production featured all things Romeo Winterfest 2023. Community collaboration. We've received communication from DDA Director Lisa Kenny from Marlette, Michigan. We are pleased to share what we have accomplished in the past year as with our new brand, our website, and much more. Please see the email attached. So that was reassuring to hear that. The Romeo District Library Winterfest Story Walk is up. Snowmen at Night by Carolyn Buhner can be seen throughout downtown until the end of February. I had someone that popped into our volunteer headquarters on Saturday who said, we are here because of that book. It's their family's favorite book this winter, and they can't stop reading it, so their daughter won't let them stop reading it, so they had to come and experience that. mitttv has created a few promotional videos for us this month, and we enjoyed welcoming the newest members of our Snowmen family with the assistance of County Executive Mark Hackle. The Macomb County Planning and Economic Development Team has been sharing our Winterfest promotional material on all their social media channels, and we take advantage of the Macomb Orchard Trail that has all of our Winterfest materials displayed on all 4 trail sides information bulletins. The DDA new office space. The sign bracket and shingle were relocated to our new home at 141 South Main Street last week. It looks quite at home, and Mr. James P. Sullivan, who's their snowman, is keeping it company during the Best Dressed Snowman contest. Somebody watched a little girl and took a video of it. She ran, she saw Sullivan and just ran up and gave him a big old hug. So it was really, really cute. And by the way, the snowman contest, we've extended it through Thursday morning because some didn't get decorated until the last minute. We've got some exciting changes for next year that we're excited to talk to you guys about later in the year. Renovations are in full swing. We continue to receive calls and drop-in visits from residents, downtown businesses, and other organizations outside of Romeo that have been interested in donating or partnering with us or providing services at cost. People-Driven Credit Union continue to show us their generosity and desire to assist the Romeo DDA in setting up our offices. We will have a full list of office furniture and equipment that we have the opportunity to acquire at no cost or financial impact to the DDA. The only furniture that is owned by the DDA and moved from our old office were 2 donated office chairs that came from Michelle Gilbo last year from her office, and the shelving unit. We are operating on all donated temporary office furniture, and I'm driving down to Livonia tomorrow to check out the rest of what they have from one of their administrative offices that are closing, and some beautiful, beautiful items that they're giving us. So hopefully you all understand just how amazing that is, that we're able to furnish that with this space. The staff of PDCU have been very welcoming, and they are all smiles and very interested in the daily progress, and they loved the extra cookies I gave them today from Saturday. The last thing that I would just add to that, I know we have the approved annual calendar of events. Our next event is, that we had approved on there is Arbor Day. I don't know what the direction of the new tree board is going to be, but it's really not our event. We supported it, so we would need to, I would, President Poznansky, if you can give some direction on that within the next couple of weeks so we can plan that, or if it just needs to be scratched for this year. Not quite sure what the issue, where that is with that.
Who's their chair?
I have no idea.
Do you have one yet?
I'm just wondering when do they meet next?
Gonna try and get a meeting in the next couple weeks.
Okay, so I'm wondering maybe just invite them, because if it is somebody who's new, maybe invite them to one of the event
Sure.
subcommittee meetings, that way so they can either relay it. I'm sure there's
Yeah.
existing board members who would like to continue that tradition on, hopefully.
I think there's only one existing, because one of the people that was appointed, I guess, declined. So she's not, there's not any institutional knowledge there on that one,
Okay.
and there's only, I think Chris McLeod's the only one left on that.
Okay, maybe
So-
it'd be good to reach out to them though, and I guess just pull
Okay.
them into the,
So can you let me know when that is made, Megan? Would you be able to give that information to me so I can get in touch with them?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
What was our involvement with that event? What was the DDA's involvement with that event last year?
So part of the funding for that came from the tree board and from the village, from a line item. And then I don't remember what the approved amount was for Arbor Day from this board. But we have signs that can be reused this year.
So there
It
was
in.
funding involvement? just to
There
help
was,
them
correct.
put it on?
Yeah. So we had some vendors. We had, Greg had, Tar Financial had their bulldog up. There were trees that were donated. But again, all of that was really the tree board, and we just helped with the marketing aspect of it with
Yeah,
you
I
and
just
some
meant-
brochures.
I just meant the DDA's involvement. I mean,
Right.
it's not for us to say we're going, to scratch it. It's for us to say, hey, I think we would love to participate again.
right.
And when that board meets, that word should get to them, whoever
Sure.
that
Yeah.
is. And
Yeah.
that's how I would hope it's
Okay,
taken
thank
out
you.
there. Not that, oh, scratch it, let's
Oh, no,
say,
yeah, I
great,
think
when's
that-
the event? What
We
can
just
do
want to
help?
make sure it's 10 weeks away, so we just want to
Yeah.
make sure we take advantage of the times so that we can be well prepared.
And then also maybe since it's a new board, maybe we can help a little bit more to,
Yeah, yeah, I think pulling them into
Out of the spirit
the,
of good neighbors,
Yeah,
this
for
is
sure.
for all of us. So
utilizing, I know, is it Trish? One of your volunteers, Trish?
La Valley?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know she helped a lot with Arbor
She
Day
did,
too,
yeah.
so, we've got, I think, some knowledge in
For
your
sure.
group of volunteers, so yeah, I think.
So
let's
if we
not-
could have maybe like a meeting at least planned for by no later than the end of February would be necessary so that we can do it in a timely manner would be helpful.
I don't have the calendar in front of me. When is
Great.
that?
It is April 28th, Friday, April 28th. And the school district was involved in that as well. And there were tree donations, there were all of that had happened last year, so I don't know what the plans are this year.
I
Are
also
we
don't have,
able-
I don't
I'm
have our
sorry.
calendar either. April 28th, Arbor Day. There's nothing between now and April 28th as far
Correct.
as events.
Correct.
Are we able to use the park?
That's a great question.
I think they did, you did last year.
We did use the park last year, yes, yes.
Right, but okay, I didn't know if everything was as far as permits and everything. I don't know, I just heard permits weren't being pulled and we're not allowed to use it, or no?
I don't know, and it's not our event, so I don't think we should really
didn't hold a permit
speculate
last
as far as, you know, because that's, I don't want it to appear as though like we're trying to hijack
Yeah, it
something
depends on
that
how
they've
much,
kind
what
of,
work is or isn't being done on that property, so if it's safe or not to,
Right.
yeah.
But last year it was a
Insurance
tree board
reasons.
We might
that,
need to be a little more creative this year, might need to be smaller somewhere else, depending on what work, because the, can't call it a gazebo. What do they-
Pavilion?
They like it to be called a pavilion, might be being constructed at that time. So we have to kind of see where we're at.
so TBD.
okay. And that was it. And then you have the events report from Madison on there as well, so.
I had a quick question, Elizabeth.
Sure.
On this information. I don't know if it's mine. The email from Lisa is really nice. I think I'm missing part of the email that originally came from you. I see Lisa's part, but was there part of it that's missing, or is it just?
Oh, I just had printed her email. It was
Oh,
just
okay,
my
all right.
response.
Oh, okay, all
Yeah,
right.
it was just my response to her. That was just, I just printed the original one that.
Got it, got it,
That
got
she
it.
had
Okay.
sent. But if you'd like to read that, I'd be happy to
Nope.
give it to you.
No, I just wanted to make sure I
Okay,
wasn't missing a piece. or
no
something.
problem.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. Moving on, event committee report.
You had asked for that to be added.
I didn't know if you had a report or we were going right into board liaison.
I have not presented that in the past, but if you
Okay.
would like me to go through it, I'd be happy to.
No, that's all right. Okay, yeah, so I had asked for a board liaison for from this board to be appointed to the event subcommittee. Before, it was kind of just like an open door type thing. All members are welcome to attend, which can still be the case. However, I do think it's important, just in light of a few things that have occurred, that there be one person who's solely responsible for attending those meetings regularly, and then communicating specifically at those event subcommittee meetings and reporting back to us as a board, no different than we would with any subcommittee. When the parking study committee meets, we provide a report back, and then it's just another set of eyes on everything. So if there is anybody that's interested, most of the meetings are held during the mornings. What do you, once a week usually?
Yeah, Thursdays at 10 a.m.
Thursdays at 10 a.m., occasionally the night meetings. but-
Occasionally, yes. We don't have any evening ones scheduled just
Okay.
yet because we've still trying to get,
Sure.
situated.
I know, Andrea, you had mentioned, because you were in attendance remotely for the last meeting, you had mentioned that you would probably be attending these more regularly. I know, Danielle, you volunteered to help out in the past, so.
You want to tag team it, but so it's not completely on someone's shoulders? Like, one
I think it'd be
can't make
nice
the
to
other?
have one, only because that way there's no, I think part of the problem was before, you miss one time and you might miss something that was discussed that the board wouldn't then be privy to. So if there's somebody who can make it regularly, that would be fantastic, but I understand time is tough for everybody.
Sam, go ahead. Go ahead. I was just gonna say, I'm more than happy to do it. I just can't do it Thursday mornings. So if there's any way to change it to a Monday or Tuesday, I could be there every single one.
I can do it, and I could explain to Elizabeth, I can only do virtually though. So if there's a setup that's more conducive to virtually, I mean, I know the last one was, a little bit awkward.
Is there
Within a
anyone-
month or so, I'm sorry.
Is there any board members that can make a Thursday at 10 at all?
I can't.
Yeah.
We had, a former board member was there every Thursday. But yeah, I mean, our volunteers are used to that time.
Is weekly required, is that necessary to have a weekly meeting?
It has been. We've become quite efficient with our time and our resources by doing so. Taking an hour a week really helps keep the ball rolling as we have these events that are quite time consuming, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious, because we don't have an event coming up until, when is our next event?
If it's Arbor Day, it would be April 28th, but we have Vintage Fest to prepare for, which is a lot of work.
Okay.
And then, of course, scheduling for things that might happen October, December, January. We want to get better with the timing of
Yeah,
everything.
no, I completely understand. I'd be happy to do it if virtual works. I
Yeah,
can
Yeah.
do
that's
that.
fine. I know you're working on some things to make it more,
We'll have some sort of IT thing figured out
Okay.
within the
Yeah,
next
if
couple of
that-
months that'll
Right.
make it better.
So it's, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was just.
So you don't have
I've
to
got
just
no
keep
problem
looking
with
at my chin in the video.
that. I can, yes, I have no
Can we-
problem with that.
Can we look at an alternative day? If, right at the moment, it looks like we have one board member that can make it work virtually, maybe there's a board member that can make it work a different day. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, what, because
it's
I
our
mean, if Danielle
subcommittee,
can
we
do
should
it Monday
kinda
or Tuesday in
decide what
person.
works, yeah.
I mean, I'd certainly, I liked when the evening one was offered, because I liked going to it.
Yeah.
It was nice to be able to do that. And I'm interested in continuing to be involved and continuing to do it. I've stopped in multiple times, what can I do to help, what can I do to help? And so, being there in person, I would love to do it. I understand you've kind of set a schedule, and you've got volunteers that are coming on a specific day. If there's any way to ask them if they would be opposed to a
Yeah.
different day,
Well,
I would.
I mean, it's our,
Do it.
it's our committee,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think it's very important, I think, and I've kind of indicated this probably the last couple meetings. Part of what we've been doing, I think we need to communicate better, and this is a huge part of it, and I think it will help bring us all together with not only information, what else is going on, but what else can we all do to help? So if there's a way, and again, since I'm not stepping up saying I'm available, I'm good. Not
I
gonna
think
go any
in
further,
person's
but
always
If there's
better.
a way, I think it would be nice to,
Would 10
Well,
o'clock still
Mondays
be-
work better
would-
for me, just saying.
So, and ask for Monday or Tuesday at 10 instead?
I mean, I
Or do
feel
you
like.
not want to ask?
I feel like this is on Elizabeth because she's got a lot of volunteers already committed, and if we do have to reschedule, which is, I don't know what their schedules are like. I know you have a couple that always Zoom in anyway because of their work schedules.
Sure.
But at that point, I think out of respect for the volunteers who have been participating, before we make any final decision, we should probably make sure that
Yeah.
we're not starting over from scratch if we do make these changes. That would be my only concern.
and I would not say we should make a decision. It is definitely on Elizabeth. I guess my ask would be, can we ask around? There may be volunteers out there that are not volunteering because it's Thursday at 10 o'clock. We don't know that.
And
We haven't asked that.
some businesses, the retails aren't open on Monday, so that may be
Well, that's a
better
good
for
point.
them
Mondays might-
to be able to come.
Yeah,
you
the
know.
as far as business
As far as
participation, that's
businesses,
a
right.
good point
Yeah,
too. So
Monday is
I-
a good day.
I'm not saying decisions, I'm just saying
Right.
maybe if we can direct Elizabeth to at least ask the questions and kind of get a better feel for the existing volunteers. And
Sure.
I don't know if there's a way for us to put word out who else might want to partake. If it was not on Thursday, then
Well, I
it might be
have a whole
win-win for,
email system.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with an ask. So at this time, based on the feedback I'm getting, we should table this until we have, because we don't want to appoint anybody if we don't know
Changes.
when the meetings are going to be. So let's table this for next month, and we'll wait until we have more information about the timing of these meetings from here on out. Does that work for everybody?
so we're going to ask Elizabeth to ask. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, come back with more information to see if we can rework the schedule at all, and then we'll make a decision on the liaison at that time, once we know whether it's something we can switch around or not, because it sounds like we have options either way, so,
So I think what I'm hearing, if I may, I
Yeah.
think what I'm hearing, Danielle, is that if it's any day other than Thursday, that you would be able to attend regularly, and that you're volunteering to be the board liaison?
I am volunteering. Monday or Tuesday would be
Monday or Tuesday.
ideal.
Okay, and what you're saying, Zach, is that it would be the same person for, say, a year or whatever?
I mean, yeah, essentially no different than any sort of subcommittee that meets. We've assembled, and as work continues and is ongoing and we meet, it's usually the same group and board members until we dissolve the subcommittee, essentially, so.
So if that were to happen, I have a meeting this Thursday. If it were to switch, Danielle, to the following Monday or Tuesday, we probably would skip a week because it would just be a meeting 4 days later. And then you'd be hopping right into, the 20th or the 21st, and the 20th is a holiday.
We
So
won't
my
have any-
concern with a Monday would be you have holidays that happen free, but we can figure it out.
Yeah, because I mean, we're not, anything wouldn't change until next month anyway. We're just looking for information at this point because we'd still have to go back and actually appoint somebody. Nobody's been appointed at this time. We need more information on our end about the meetings themselves before we appoint somebody. So there wouldn't be, you can stay on the same schedule for now until the board makes a decision other than that. Does that make sense?
I could, but I would say that it would, from my volunteers, if we're gonna make a switch, I'd rather just make the switch as far as the day of the week, so that it's eases people's schedule, not like, wait, when are we starting to do something different? And 2 weeks, it could be switched to a different day, and then if she's able to make it, and then you guys
Yeah,
can
I
still
mean, you
make
can,
that
I
decision.
mean, yeah.
I would come anyways, even if I wasn't assigned,
Okay.
so if you made it
Sure.
Monday at 10, I'd come anyways, because
Okay.
I've been enjoying them.
Okay.
So if it was on a Monday and you did switch it this coming, I would come anyways, so.
Okay, great, good to know, thank
All
you.
right, so we will table that until next month. Moving on, funding requests, we have none. Next up, committee reports, parking study committee. Let's see, I think the parking study committee has met twice now. I know I was not able to attend the one Saturday meeting that Deborah had. I don't know if anybody else met with Deborah on that Saturday.
So the day before.
Yeah, I think the week before when you, me, John, Elizabeth, and Deborah sat in on the meeting where we discussed the alley, because we had to make a decision on that. So we'll get to that in unfinished business, but I don't think there was anything beyond what we're gonna be talking about in the alley that came out of those meetings, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't have any.
I can't speak to the one that we weren't in attendance for, but.
Well, I mean, there is, but it's in the unfinished business.
Right. Okay, moving on to unfinished business, we'll roll right into it. Line item A, Marketplace Alley, final recommendation to send to Village Council. As most of you know by now, the temporary closure was set to expire at the end of this month, and we had to provide an answer to Village Council to basically say what our intent was moving forward on that alley. And it's been quite some time now. So what we basically had decided was, at this point, to reopen the alley. And in the meantime, the board does, the subcommittee and the board does still intend on pursuing potential hardscape options down the road. We've looked at some different plans. But that part of it, the hardscaping, the beautification, there would be a plan put together that would include I shouldn't say all alleys, but multiple alleys and plans to see those through, as opposed to just saying, we're only focusing on this one and have this, well, what are you doing type of plan. It's like I always use the dumpster corrals as an example. One dumpster corral was set up, there was never a plan to follow through and get the rest of them set up for the other quadrants. So that's something that this board would, or this subcommittee would plan to present in the next 6 months to a year, and a decision to be made following those plans. So at this point, it's basically, let's open this alley back up, let's stop with the temporary closures and get back to business as usual.
Yeah, the only thing I would mention is just to clarify.
Sure.
What we're doing as a board is we're just making a recommendation.
Correct.
It's the actual village trustees that make the actual decisions. So this
Yes,
subcommittee
yes.
was put together to formulate a recommendation that then will go to the village trustees.
So would we be making a motion to go to the village council and recommend it be opened, or is that not even necessary? Will it just be
Either
open?
way, we have to go because we told them, if I'm not mistaken, the last meeting, we would come back to you with our recommendation, which is
Okay.
what we have here.
Basically
Yeah, I
after
wouldn't say
Winterfest
we
was
wouldn't need to
done.
make a motion, because the way the motion was stated at the village level, it opens back up at the end of February. So if you come and ask us, that will still happen. But yeah, I would still come speak to the point of what you're saying.
I think just for clarification's sake, just so it's in, we
Yeah.
voted, everybody's on the same page, so.
Well, I'm just
I
saying,
think-
council doesn't need to make another motion to have it open back up at the
Right.
end of February, because we've already made that.
And we're not asking for any
Yes,
further
right. So that would just be redundant,
extensions.
but
Right.
absolutely come and speak to the fact of where you're headed.
Okay.
And just so I understand, when we're saying reopen, we're saying removing what's in there and having it be as a,
Back to how it was.
back to how it was before,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, so there is, for approval, we have I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation to the village council to reopen the northeast alley that has come to be known as Marketplace Alley. Furthermore, the DDA Board of Directors will pursue the options for permanent hardscape and beautification of said alley, as well as additional alleys throughout the village to further enhance our central business district, and offer some formal plans for consideration. These plans are estimated to take 6 months to 1 year and will be initiated by our existing alley and parking subcommittee.
So
Do-
really, your motion is a temporary reopening. Is that,
Well, not without further plans to, if it's something that's going to be, what we're going to present is going to be a hardscape final project. It's not going to ever have it's not gonna have the question hanging in the air, if that's a good way to put it, but it would be based on a hardscape feature that would in fact, yes, permanently close
Okay.
those alleys, but the plans would be for, it'd be a bigger project, if that makes sense.
gotcha.
So I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Hayes, second by Lee. Do you wanna do a roll on this?
That's your call.
I have some can
Yeah, we can
I, okay,
discuss.
so I just want to understand, so if this motion means that in 6 months, then we can still be shutting down these alleys?
We'd
We
have to
could be
vote on
making
that,
the
right?
recommendation, yes, yeah.
And Zach, would we re-vote on that then, again? If
We would have to.
Yeah.
Yes,
So-
yeah, it would have to be voted on. This is to allow basically the alley subcommittee to continue to pursue these options for the hardscape project that we've been looking at internally.
So regardless of how we vote or whatever, I mean, February 28th is the
It's reopening.
It's gonna reopen.
reopen.
Yeah, and there's nothing that we're asking for to extend that or to permanently close it at this time. So it's gonna open unless the village board for some reason decides that they want to extend it. That's their decision to make, but we're not asking for that.
But we will be coming back. and
Potentially,
Presenting,
yes,
another
yeah,
option
but
to
this,
close it.
this board would have to vote on that first at that time, based on the plans that are drawn up and decisions that we make to then take that to village again, because we can't make that decision one way or the other, period. That's.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's
it's
just.
got to go to them anyway.
Correct.
And that in theory could be a motion or a recommendation to do a lot of things, a couple of alleys or
Sure.
whatever. It's just put to rest for now, and we look at it, get it down the road.
Yeah.
So that's the way I understand it.
All right, so we have a motion by Hayes, we have a second by Lee. Elizabeth, can you do a roll, please?
Sure. Tar?
Yep.
St. Laurent?
No.
Lee?
Yes.
Brandt?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes?
Hayes?
Yes.
Poznanski?
Yes?
Hutnick?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. All right.
So just on that, I have plans to those planters, because it's in our flower contract, for those planters to be filled with the flowers. So my intention is to go to, because they're big and they're hard to move and they're heavy.
Right.
And if I get somebody with, one of those forklift thingies, to possibly put them in the grassy space next to the pit stop, because it's not that far of a move, and they could still be shade-loving plants, it could still decorate up that, but it's not gonna, it would be on private property, but it wouldn't
Okay.
be anything different than some of the other things we have, so.
Okay.
Because it's already paid for.
The planter itself?
Well, the planter obviously is paid for itself, but the plants going in them, it's already part of our floral contract.
Okay, yeah.
So
As
they'll
long
be
as
done.
it,
Whose property are you putting it on?
Pardon?
Whose property?
I don't know yet, but I'd be talking to Nader at Pit Stop.
Is it 3?
There's
lanterns?
3 of them.
If-
They're quite hard to move, especially when they're full.
If you're going to want to speak to him, I was told, and I have not spoken to him at all about this, but he actually proposed, he's got some space, because he knows that there were some tables there, and he said it might be a nice place to have a table or two in his area that he might fix up, which sounds like where
Oh.
you might want to talk to him about the planners, so you might want to bring that up at the same time.
Sure.
If you're interested in doing that.
I can do that. I don't know that we'd want to have picnic tables right next to an alley that's opened up to vehicular traffic. I would be concerned about that from a safety perspective, but it's something we can pursue for sure. Thank you.
all right. Next up, we have the GFL waste hauler service and rubbish millage.
I had a question, I mean, I'm a little new here, but I've sat through a couple meetings and heard about this. Can I just have a little backstory of why it's on the agenda, or who put it, like, who asked for it and what it is, just for my,
The way I understand it is, those of folks of us that own buildings in the village and the DDA, we've been being charged for trash pickup for years on part of the tax bill, and we don't receive it.
okay?
So I think there's a growing number of people who are starting to wonder about the money, where it's gone, and how we get it back. That's my understanding of it. So I started catching wind of it just a month or couple, I don't know, maybe a few months ago, and I'm not sure how exactly it got on the agenda, but it's something that
Some questions have come in.
the president
yeah.
put it, I don't know, or you or whoever, but that's what it is.
Some of the
It was-
businesses have been asking questions. Main Street Romeo Kitchen and Bar about 9 months ago said, how come we were getting taxed for this, but we don't get the services? So I brought it to the board a few different times, just, how do we go about answering this
But
question?
we were, to my recollection, we were supposed to have additional information for this meeting?
We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow at 9 AM. It was supposed to be with Megan and accounting, and then I just found out before the meeting that you were not attending that, so I don't know what's happening with that.
So
Greg,
can I-
So
we'd
we
already
don't
had that
have,
scheduled.
but we don't have anything to discuss for this line item?
No, but it's an unfinished business item, so instead of just scratching it from the agenda and not having some conclusion, I'm waiting for direction from the board what to do with that,
Can
since we
I
have businesses
ask
asking.
Another question then, what is it that this board could do for the businesses? Could this board do anything for the businesses to handle this, or is this at a village level?
I think we can be the voice of the businesses
Okay.
and go to the village.
Yeah, they're
And
not gonna,
ask.
they're not gonna
But we
work
can-
on it.
yeah, we
It's
can be
not
the
in their
voice.
interest to bring this and figure it out. But,
Yes.
if you're a building owner, you got a business down there, there's a big issue with, and it's something I've talked about for years, and the new folks here will start kind of get up to speed on more and more, is the dumpster corrals. There's a significant problem in really all the quadrants except, behind the office pub, they sort of got the Mac Daddy there where it works good. And
Yeah, and I think the DDA did that,
We did.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was
DDA did that.
before- It was before my
Well,
involvement.
wasn't it with the village because they did the whole parking lot?
It was like a
Is it like we're paying twice for dumpsters? Like,
Oh, yeah.
we should
You
be.
own that building?
Greg?
No.
Right, so
Can
you're
you
not
guys speak
paying
into your
yourself, but-
microphone?
Greg, I'm sorry, she asked if you could speak in the microphone, she
Oh,
couldn't hear
I'm
you.
so sorry. Yeah,
If we're gonna do that, should all of you do that?
all right, sorry about that.
I have my hearing aids in, I guess.
So just to reiterate, from what I understand of it, Marty just told me that she doesn't, as an example, own her building, but somebody does, and they pay taxes on that, of course, and they're paying for garbage pickup. And I think, Marty, you must have a dumpster back there somewhere that you're putting all your stuff in. And
We
you're
do.
You're paying a cost for that, right? So your owner of that building would be interested in knowing, and that's what we're trying to find out, I think, tomorrow, the real mechanical breakdown of the bill and how much it actually is. But it's a fair amount of money, and it's been going on for a long time. And maybe we can, you know, I don't know, I'm not an expert in that, but maybe modify the way, you know, the tax bills or the millages are collected or something like that. If they're not going to get the service, then that money could be routed towards some funding for dumpster corrals, because that, I mean, if you look behind Marty's building, it's obviously an issue. You drive into town from that direction, there's a lot of work that can be done there.
Sure.
You get behind the bank, the Little Caesars, the gun shop, JL's, that quadrant, there's nothing there. John has no, the Village Park, you're there, and it just needs to be cleaned up. The money's there, it's just not being routed the right way.
So this board could look at possible avenues to create these corrals and.
Yeah, because the village themselves, they're just not gonna take on that project. They got enough to do.
Sure.
Seemingly, you know, which I get it, you know, so someone's gotta be the voice of it. Whoever just said that a moment ago, I think it was you, John, or someone, we could be the voice, I think. Doing the reconnaissance, gathering the data, and frankly, pushing the village a little bit on, hey, what are we gonna do? You know, you got this money coming in. We don't know the dollar amount, but it's not a little bit of money, it's a fair amount of money, I believe, and that would be very useful to use in that way.
Well, it sounds like we'll have a more lengthy conversation in March after you
Are we still
guys
having the
meet.
meeting tomorrow, Megan, Elizabeth? I know it's on my calendar, so is this lady
I'm
coming out?
not
from
sure.
Plant
I
Moran?
mean, I don't know. It's
Well,
with
someone
the
needs to
village
let me know.
accountant,
I've
so.
got the time carved out, but I don't want to show up there if she's not there. I'm assuming she's an expert on these tax bills and millages and can tell us. So how,
That's my understanding.
all right,
So, and sorry, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but
No,
once
it's
we
good.
have this data and we know how much money is going here, there, wherever, then what's our plan?
well, we could do a lot of things. We go to the village, say, look, there's $100,000 that's owed back to all of these people. And all these people could, and I'm making up that number.
Right,
It might
right,
be
right.
20,000, it might be
Right.
2,000.
Right.
We're gonna know. And then there's gonna be those people who have to decide if, you know, I don't know where we'll go. I'm one of those people,
Sure.
because I own a few buildings along there, and I don't know, John, if you own yours or not, or Zach does, he owns his, so he's paying, so. I don't know, some people may demand that money back, others might be like, hey, I live in Rochester, I own a building here, I'm not really that interested in it, and I've got other things to do. It'd be nice for Marty if her landlord, owner of that building said, hey, here's the deal, you know, I'm gonna give you, you know, $500 a year towards your dumpster pickup and haul away because I'm no longer having to pay it on my tax bill.
Yeah, but
I'm speculating on
Sure,
this,
sure.
but we're gonna know.
you know what? I am like 99.9% positive he's not even aware of that.
No, they're not,
He is not, because I
It's-
know he was paying for his own dumpster
that's right.
So,
as well.
so Danielle, to answer your question, I think once we do have those numbers and some more concrete information, what this board would probably want to do with those numbers is to form a subcommittee and figure out exactly how we want to approach it, so we're not just having this conversation in an open meeting. We're doing the work behind the scenes and then reporting back to the board so that we can make some decisions moving forward by, you know, putting these things into action by a vote, spending money, that kind of thing, or not spending money, but to figure out how we can best serve the CBD.
Okay.
So,
I was made aware of the rubbish millage being a separate line item coming out of the general fund when I went to the budget workshop that Plant Moran presented to village council. So that would have been, what, May or June? It would have been May, I believe. So I attended that with our former accountant. So that's when they explained a lot of it about how that was. And so I remember coming back to you as a board saying, hey, is this anything you guys want to look at or not? And how is this? Because those questions have been coming into our inbox. So.
It's
And this
not-
is not anything new, you said, right, Greg? This has been going on for years.
well, hold on. At one point, this was discussed during our budget time to say, do we want to pursue the cost of individual garbage pickup for the CBD? That was presented as something, do you want to pursue this as as like spending on our end. And we decided when we were going through our projects that that was not something that was going to be there. So I don't know if that's kind of what we're talking about here, but it wasn't presented as though like there's this tax floating around. It was, do we want to look into this for a cost and take on some of that burden? So,
Well, remember, the former president who sat on our board talked about the millage is now separate, so if this is something the DDA wants to pursue to try to help some of these businesses, then, so that's where some of this is coming from, so.
okay. All right, so I think we'll have more information next month on that.
I don't know, so what is the deal with the meeting? Is it happening or not?
That's your call, and I don't.
Is this lady coming out from Plant Moran tomorrow at 9 a.m.?
Yes.
I'll be there, just tell me where to be. I've got
Okay.
45 minutes set aside
Okay.
for it, and we could do it on the phone, I mean, if you want to. not-
She's already going to be here, so apparently.
Oh, that's fine, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, next, under unfinished business, we have the DDA office lease. As you guys know, we have found new space at People's Driven Credit Union. We signed a 5-year lease with them. The space we previously resided at within Village Hall is no longer necessary for the DDA to continue to conduct business in. So per that lease agreement, we do have to provide written notice that we are vacating. So this motion is to just do that and give that direction from this board so that we can get that wrapped up on our end. So you have the action item for approval there with the recommended motion. So anybody who would like to make that motion, feel free to do so.
I'll make a motion to terminate the DDA office lease with the Village of Romeo and provide written notice of vacating premises within 30 days per lease agreement, remaining DDA property to be removed no later than February 28th, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion by Lee, second by Rose. Elizabeth, can you do a roll call?
Sure. Tar,
Yes.
St. Laurent,
Yes.
Brandt,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Poznanski,
Yes.
Hutnick,
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Still need somebody to help move those 2 boxes in the bookshelf.
Motion carries. Moving on to new business. First item up, the DDA Board Workshop and Orientation. I'll just touch on this really quickly. You guys received an email from me last week about the workshop meeting that we had a couple dates out there that we had proposed, and it sounds like the February 22nd from 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. at People's Driven Credit Union is what's going to work best for everybody. So that's where we'll have it. It'll just be a very informal kind of go through the motions a little bit, get to know the process, get to know some of these other resources that are available to us as a board. And it'll be very similar to what we do at for our goals and objectives meeting as well. So you guys will kind of get an idea of what a workshop looks like other than these like formal sit-down meetings. So I think it'll be good for all of us, especially since we have so many new board members here, and I think it's a lot of great information to come out of that meeting. So I appreciate everybody freeing up their schedule to make that work. And that's it.
And we will have, a meal will be provided, so
See?
we'll have that ready.
Some grub too, so come hungry, and full of ideas, I guess. Moving on, new business, line item B, DDA facade program. Andrea?
Yeah, so actually, the B and C kind of go together.
Okay.
I've spent some time on the website and just kind of going through the different tabs and looking at it. So I just really wanted to get some information on the facade and the sign program as far as when were they last issued, how are they being promoted, kind of what's the activity with them, and where are we at with them?
Sure. I'll speak on this really quickly. So I think it was about maybe a little less than a year ago, we had a couple businesses fill out the facade grant application, submitted it to the DDA, and we were looking at it and we're like, wow, this is really not what this was designed to be. It was more to the way that these businesses were requesting the money. It was almost as if we were partnering with them on the project and how they were asking for money and the plans, whereas traditionally, the facade grant had been awarded for work that was already completed, like a way to acknowledge business owners who were keeping up their buildings or, doing something in keeping with the architecture of downtown. So we were like, okay, it's been a while since this was looked at. We need to look at this again. We had a subcommittee. We worked on some new verbiage for the facade grant and ways and ideas that we could promote the businesses that were looking for it, some dollar amounts that we would award, as well as some parameters. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, and make it more of like a brick type award, like this is being presented to you, really have some accolades behind it and an acknowledgement of work that had been completed. Sign grant, it has not really been applied for I'm trying to think the last one that we did. Because that was a $500 grant for the signs. Did Mary get one all around the house?
Oh, no, Mary Raymond, I know, for the Keller Williams.
I think Mary Ann did.
Also.
Yeah,
It's been quite a few years.
yeah. I remember Mobley.
But that was in 13.
That was a long time ago. Yeah, but it was out there. There was a few years that we didn't budget for it because nobody was applying for it. But I know the facade grant is in the process of being rewritten. And I think we budgeted 10,000 for that.
No, you budgeted 5, and then when we presented because of the process that that you all had for people completing that and being awarded, it didn't look like there would be anybody that would follow through on that before the end of the fiscal year, and so that's why we looked to reroute those funds into the renovation project.
For this
budget
fiscal
year.
year.
Mhm.
Right.
Correct, yeah.
Right, which is,
Yeah, but I can tell you right now, I have the, nope, you're right, it was 10,000, you're right. Yep.
so yeah, so we did budget for it, and we were working on like I said, rewriting it, but to your point, there's nothing that we're doing currently to really promote it. So I think there's definitely some room for improvement on that. I know a lot of the times too, the sign grant was different because the sign grant was almost meant to come to us before the sign was actually made. So it was that we could have it in keeping with
Yeah, we
more
try
of
to have a
the
unity.
historical downtown. Yeah, so
Right.
you don't, not backlit signs, more of like the routed
Yeah.
signs, something that's in keeping with the guidelines. But for a while, we were getting ones that were submitted after the work was already done, the sign was up. We couldn't really work with those businesses to keep in the tradition of the downtown area, but we were still awarding them at that point just because they were still meeting the criteria ultimately. We just didn't have that collaboration that I think it was originally intended to have.
The expectation, okay.
Yeah.
The facade improvement, there were 2 businesses that applied for that last May or June, and neither were awarded
Well, that's the
anything
one
for
I
that,
was-
because there was
but-
some confusion
Well, they
with
need
the
to do
wording of
work
how.
and Come back to us, I think,
Right.
is what we decided.
Right,
That
correct,
was
right,
the
correct,
issue.
yeah, they needed to come back, yeah, so yeah, clarity on that, thank you.
The last facade grant that we actually followed through on, it's between Denny's Golden Shears. It used to be the antique, another antique store.
Oh,
I
where
thought it-
Ranowski's
I thought it
is?
was Ranowski's building. I thought
Yeah.
that was.
Oh, when
that
they
was-
redid
that
the
was
wood in the
before my
front?
time.
And that was the last one I can recall. It's been a while.
Oh, Tucker got one, or, Keto got one. That might have been before that.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was kind of, so I don't know if that answers your question or not, or.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was just kind of going through the site and, which kind of ties into my next item too, but just seeing the different resources that are out there and, wanting to know if the people within the district are even aware of them. And how are we promoting it and getting it to people? And do they know that these resources are out there for them to apply for?
Yeah, I think the sign grant would be a great one to say, like, if it's a new business coming into town, like, hey, did you know? This is our sign grant program, because, I mean, when you're starting your business and you can get $500 towards your,
huge.
it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, every little bit helps
Yeah,
at
we
that,
just
at
had
that
that new
point.
hair salon come in,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if have they done a new sign yet?
I think just on the window for
Yeah.
the moment.
So if they wanted to do
Well,
some
and I saw the
sort of-
cottage, she just got a new sign, and I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder
Yeah.
if she.
So
knew about
from
it.
the, if I may, so from the DDA staff perspective on this, when we know, if we were privy to knowing, hey, there's this business that just applied for a business license or whatnot, if we were included in that conversation, that would be helpful, because then we could present that, so it's not an after, because if you want them to be
Sure.
in line with what we want to see, what you all want to see downtown, it would behoove the village office and the DDA to kind of be in a marriage on that, if you would, so that we could have those conversations. Hey, before you pick your sign, we could actually help you pay for that if you follow these standards.
Could we,
Absolutely. I mean, anytime a business is coming in and they're in the DDA district, I mean, your card's still at the front desk.
could we put, is there
Go to
room
the
to put a
director.
stack of the sign grant? It's only a one pager. Could those be put out?
Yeah, we have a lot of slaps.
Okay.
So a lot of times what happens with DDAs and municipalities is that when people come and have those preliminary meetings, the DDA is invited to the table, or they're part of it, because, so people get that information all at the same time, so they don't have to come in time after time in
But
various
is there,
different
are there,
departments and
are there
stuff.
meetings, for if somebody's just looking to like lease a space, are there real like meetings, or is that more like from
No,
a
yeah, there
developer
are.
standpoint?
Yeah, there's been
'Cause-
many in the last 15 months that I've been on. Yeah, there's been many businesses that come in and say, hey, I'm interested in having this business. What do you think? So they meet with the inspector, they meet with planning, they meet with, somebody, sometimes it's DPW, sometimes it's, other departments, just for clarity, so.
So a suggestion on that, if I may make, obviously, we can all be meeting to death, so I don't think we have to necessarily add more or include more. But if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sure this has been brought up far before my time, but I remember early on in my time on this board, there was mention of sort of a DDA packet, so to speak, introduction, copies of permits that will be needed, sign grant applications, facade, how does this work? It's gonna take some work to put that together. I know we did have discussions of it over a year ago. I know time hasn't really allowed any of us to put into that, but I'll throw that out there.
Sure, I
And
think
then
that's a good idea.
that's the type of thing that would be on the village hall counter, for example. A new business coming in, and I see, oh, look at this, there's a brochure from the DDA, contacts, as I said, permits, applications, and so forth. So that might even be a better use of your time than actually attending the meetings anyways, because the meeting, you're gonna have I'm sure 100 meetings before one actually materializes.
A live one, yeah.
And it will give them far more than just simply the couple things we're talking about here. It will be, in other words, a whole PR packet.
Yeah, and we can keep them at
That's
our
sort of
offices
like
too.
A
when
big
people
part
come
of
in there.
what the DDA should be is, we are, we're a sales pitch for our district. And I think that would be a very well
Well,
time spent. And it's probably going to be up to us to initiate some of that and get that going in order to help Elizabeth do her job.
Yeah.
Probably exists in another community, I would think.
Remember when we met in front of jails this summer? I shared that with everyone. I've showed it to the building inspector, I've showed it to the planner, I've showed it to the village staff. Cindy and Catherine started revising that. There's many, many examples of other communities doing this. It's a pretty simple process, but it has to be done in marriage with the village hall.
Yeah, so
Because
Yeah,
we're not
and
the
it-
permit people, right? We're not the permit side of things, but we
ours
can
could
do it
promote
combined.
the district part of it. I mean, it
Right.
could be exactly what you're saying. Here's the sign program.
Right. I
Here's
mean,
the facade program. Here's our calendar of events. So when someone is looking at potentially coming, here's what our
How about
CBD
this?
offers you.
I have a suggestion. I have some samples. If you'd like, I can put them in the board packet for next month, and you can see what some other communities do, and you'll see how they do it in tandem with their municipality, and it's quite helpful. It makes it very business-friendly when they're combined like that. If they're two completely separate things, it's confusing for businesses, because they're not like, well, and they're talking to a bunch of different departments, so.
So we're saying this will help you out if we.
Oh,
help
I've been
put
asking for
together
it for a
this.
year, yeah, absolutely, it would be fabulous. It'd be absolutely
I
fabulous.
think it's a great idea,
We've talked
because
about it for
when
over
I,
a year.
I have, yes, I've talked about it many times, yeah.
And then that'll be what will be in the village offices for the initial introduction, and then when time comes, hey, new businesses coming in, now they've got contacts, okay, what is the DDA, who's on the DDA, who can I talk to as far as the point person?
Yeah.
I'd like to submit, here's my sign grant, and they
Are
have
we
that
gonna,
information.
are we retaining the planner for next year? Is he staying? What's the deal with him? Megan,
The
you
DDA
know?
doesn't have a planner.
What's that? No,
This board doesn't have a
the
planner.
village planner. Casson, is that his name?
He retired.
He retired, so he's no longer available
They have a
to
new
us?
planner.
So we do have someone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, good, because that'll be important. Whoever's gonna try to do something here to
Yeah.
have that planner. I know he was very helpful to us on a couple projects and getting ideas and direction, so, yeah, good.
right,
What's
'cause
the new
when I
planner's
moved
name?
here 8 years ago, when we opened up the restaurant, I was clueless. I had no direction on where to go. You know, I am just now hearing about these grants for the first time. I'm like, oh my God. You know, so I think it's a great idea. It is. Even, put information, even though we don't approve the permits, still put information in there, because it's hard not knowing where to go, what to do.
And I don't think you necessarily need to have all of the specifics on every single permit, but whoever the contact person is, you need to talk to this person if you need, to get permits. At least it's going in a direction,
Right,
you
because
know?
I didn't know you couldn't have a banner hanging on the outside of your
Right,
window.
right,
You know? I learned things the hard way.
right.
All right, so does that cover the facade and the sign, and do you want to move into?
Yes,
Okay, so
yeah.
we'll move into the next line item, building and merchant, restaurant and professions communication.
So this is kind of, I think, what we've kind of segued into, but that was some of my questions is, specifically, how are we communicating with building owners and then the people within the restaurants, the merchants, the professionals? I know you said you have emails and, all different ways to do it, but how often are we communicating? Like, just for example, and I've just got some notes written here, specifically the programs and the grants, things like space. I know that on the website, there's options to list open spaces for rent or for lease. There's one listed right now, I think, at least as the last time I looked at it, which was probably a couple weeks ago. So how much are we communicating with building owners so that they're able to list, spots that they have open? How much are we communicating with all of the people in the district? And then specifically, and I think we're able to do this, but can we be sending our DDA agenda to your email list of the people that do business in the district to help encourage, people to be understanding what we're talking about at these meetings and encourage more feedback and more attendance?
Would you like me to answer every one of those questions?
Please.
Okay, I'd be happy to.
From the top.
No problem, no problem. So space available, yes, we have put that message out several times.
Okay.
And so it's up to people to submit the information. And so, yes, so we do have that on there. We'd like to change the way that it is currently, so it's just like a Google Doc, so that we don't have to rely on the web developer to upload that, because we had some problems getting the one up there. And so, yes, that's something that's, actually Deborah McLeod and I have talked about that. That's, for instance, People-Driven Credit Union, I never even knew there was an upstairs there, and if it wasn't, for our former board member, we never would have known that space was an option.
Right.
Her property that she rents above Paramount, she just happened to see it and went, that doesn't look like anybody's up there, and so she asked about it, because it wasn't publicly made available. So yes, that's definitely something that can be moved on. As far as the grants go, when we first were launching, when we were building, because some of you all don't know this because you're brand new. When I started this position 16 months ago, we still had a flip phone. There was an old computer. There was no form of communication with all of the businesses in a consistent manner, nor was there for the board. So a lot's changed in a very short period of time. And so when we were building that database, we were contacting all the businesses. We sent surveys out, we handed them out, we sent them through email what we knew to, and then they were, we hand-delivered them and we mailed them, and then we got them back. The second annual one just went out, I believe it went out early December is when Madison put that one out. So we're getting more data back from that. So, and as weekly communication, gosh, probably, I don't know, Jessica, what would you say? I probably send 2-3 a week maybe, at most. We try not to flood people's emails because then they tend to not look at them, so we put cute little emojis or something on it so people can see that it's important or say that it's urgent, you know, time sensitive, whatnot. Like one went out today because there's desk furniture available that's just beautiful that anybody could take advantage of. So I do communicate that. And then agendas have been sent out in the past as well. But I have heard from businesses to say, we don't want to get too much communication, otherwise we don't look at it because it's just, you just get too much.
I think the agendas would be an important thing to send out. Just in talking with some people today in town, business owners, and
Sure.
talking about having the meeting today, and they said, oh, I didn't know there was a meeting. And I just think it would really help to encourage more involvement from those that we're, you know, here to support.
Do you think a Facebook post or an email blast would get more eyes on it? Just, I'm asking out of curiosity.
Yeah, I have no
preference
idea.
one way or the other, but I noticed like the village always posts, I'm sure you guys aren't email blasting your agenda to your list, but I
No,
noticed
it's
you
on our-
guys post
It's on our
on.
website, and I've made a point since coming in to make an event, get it on there that it's coming, and when the agenda is finalized, put it up.
And we've been doing that for about the last 4 months. It's a Facebook event, plus we put the
We
agendas
do
uploaded.
post our our.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mhm. And it's also on our website
But
as well.
minutes would also be so that they could see the business being done.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, you know, our purpose is to promote the CBD, and the more people that are coming here and, you know, engaging with us, the better. I mean, otherwise we've got, you know, we're kind of going blind on a lot of this stuff.
We
So I
gotta be
think-
careful getting too far into the weeds though, because if the goal is to, you know, feedback on events or volunteers, or, you know, if we're sending out like these long minutes and like attachments with, you know, 4-page like Word documents, I don't know if it's, I don't know. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter,
You have
but
to
they can
be
choose
a
to
little-
either read it or not.
Yeah, I
You
mean, if
gotta
they
be a
don't.
little
read it.
careful if new people, especially if you take some time and actually read and study what a DDA by Michigan code is supposed to do. I've struggled for the last few years. I think sometimes we wade into the weeds where, as a DDA, we don't really belong. We're really supposed to be more, a lot of hardscape, things that will keep the village, the communities intact and beautiful type. You start talking about events and coloring contests and ice sculptures, and it's a fine line because there's, a lot of this is sort of Chamber of Commerce stuff too.
I agree with you. I think we're way too
So
event heavy,
I would
but
challenge all of you to kind of look at, and I did, I've read it in the past, kind of acquaint yourself with it, so as you interject and have thoughts, it's a slippery slope, because we all want the community to do well, and we want to be part of it, we want to help out all these different ways, but the DDA does have, we collect taxes from building owners, that's where our money comes from, and it's, you know, it's, we have to be careful how far we wade in the weeds on different things.
But I wouldn't see putting out agenda and minutes as something adverse. I mean, you're informing your people of the work you're doing for them and what's coming up.
the discussion that's going to be had. I mean, regardless if it's an event that's on the agenda or, I mean, any of these items,
Well, they
you
are
know.
posted, I mean, we can do whatever, but it is available, I mean, if they want to go to the website, right, all of it's there.
It's on the website, it's also on Facebook, it's a Facebook event
So,
as well.
I think, no different than the village, trustee meetings, that stuff's there, if somebody wants to dial into it.
Absolutely. I'm just saying if we can be more open and, you know,
I don't know how we, honestly, I mean, in the last year, Zach would tell you, or John, or anyone that's, you know, been here a minute, it's like we're flooded with stuff compared to what was going on before, so it's been a busy, a long year. And Elizabeth is one person, 1.5 people, 1.5 persons. So, yeah, I'm all for it, but I think there's a ton of communication that goes out, and these meetings are open to the public, they can participate, they can watch from TV, and they should be here. I wish they'd be here. But
I just think, you know, what I hear is, we don't go onto the computer, we don't check things, not everybody has time to, and I'm one of them.
Go to
Sorry.
Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, if there's some way, like the high school has the electronic sign, is there something that we can, just something to think about, you know, where we can put out there, DDA meeting.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to everybody's point, I mean, it sounds like it's, you know, communication is a good thing, and the more of it we have, the better, and it's just figuring out the right way to do it and to what frequency. I mean, it's like anything else, there's data to back it up. It's, you know, when's the right time to post? How many times how frequently should you be posting? These are all things that have been documented and is readily available. So I think there's always room for improvement, and we just got to figure out which direction we want to take it.
I think, you know, people taking their kids soccer, dance, whatever, back and forth in the car, they're gonna see a sign, digital sign. You don't have time to check.
do we have the ability to text? Do you have bulk texting ability?
We have not initiated any type of a texting thing yet, no.
I think the digital sign, you're not allowed to have the digital signs
Yeah,
in the
it's not gonna-
village.
not gonna
You
go.
can't, they're not allowed per the ordinance.
Andrew,
so.
one of the things you're looking at, I'm sorry, I don't know how long you've been in Romeo, or if you own a bill, I don't know you really at all, but there used to be, do you know there used to be that MRP program? Okay, so that was sort of like, I didn't know much about it. They used to collect money from me once a year or something for dues, and I would pay it for years and years, and just kind of wonder what it was all about and how it worked, and Zach would probably know more than me, but that's sort of an organization, the way it was sort of built, as I recall. And John, do you have any experience with the MRP?
Yeah, we were all in it.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, that would be like the ideal organization to promote all these things we're talking about and doing, and I think it just went away for,
Well,
It has gone away, yeah.
it's let's, without going into a deep
Right.
dive in history, like, there were some issues with the fact that there were these two separate
Right.
groups essentially, and then eventually Carol came back she was on the DDA board, and the way we were doing things, it just seemed
Yeah.
like it was
There was a-
more,
Duplicate.
we were helping more so. That's how we kind of got on that kick, I think, initially.
There was a point in time where, many years ago, the council was considering dissolving the DDA, so the MRP came about to ensure that the businesses still had a say and a place. And then it didn't go away and was still thriving, so then the MRP kind of did events. And the DDA focused on structure and stability and all of the other grants and such. Over time, I mean, Carol's not on the board anymore, she's retired, you know.
Because we
so
were
she's
funding
retired,
a
but
lot of it. They would come to us and make a funding request to
Right.
say, we need $500, $1,000 for this event that we want to put on. So we were helping offset the cost for them on some of these events that they were
and
trying to
as we
put
have
on.
that orientation, those are things you all have to think about as a guidance you have to give Elizabeth. She works for us and has proven to be effective in a lot of different directions, but it goes back to, if the dog's gonna wag the tail, the tail's gonna wag the dog, and are we gonna direct her, is she gonna direct us? And there's not right or wrong answer to it, but if there's things that you're thinking about that we're not even talking about, like trail connectors or signage to get dumpster trails, all these, whatever, those are things we need to put her on to help us figure out if and how much money it costs. It's not just all about, you know, garden parties or vegetable stands or ice sculptures and things like that, which are fantastic. I mean, these guys killed it, the businesses, the restaurants this weekend. I was glad to see it. It didn't affect me at all, but I'm glad it worked. You know, these are great things.
I will just kind of close on this, though,
We
like,
put your communication.
I think what we're gonna be doing in that, board workshop and orientation is really gonna help answer a lot of these questions that we're all having right now, because, you know, it's conversations we've all had in the past, and there's certain things that we lose focus on as other goals kind of take off, but I think this is, you know, keep these ideas fresh and keep that, you know, keep that same excitement for when we meet, because I think that's really gonna be a chance to ask questions and, you know, really know more what we can do and maybe what we should and shouldn't be doing, so.
Right, and I mean, Andrea, you've been around, just, you know, for Greg's benefit, you've been around a while, you owned a business in the district, you've been in the DDA, you've been on the DDA in the past, correct? So I think Andrea kind of knows a little bit of where she's coming from.
I don't doubt it at all. I know Marty a little bit. We've never spoken in my life before, and we haven't, so I don't know. So.
We're all gonna get to know each other very well.
So if I may, regarding the 22nd workshop and orientation, our two speakers encourage any questions to be submitted so we can get them, so you can submit them to myself or Zach. And Zach and I are in a conference call tomorrow with them to form the agenda and whatnot. So I would encourage you to, you know, to submit those. Also, the Google Drive that I shared with everybody, please take advantage of that. For the new ones, I printed you all copies of the whatnots that are there. Not a good descriptor there, I know, but the Michigan Downtown Association podcast, I know, Andrew, you said you've listened to a few of those. A lot of what we were talking about tonight is answered in those podcasts and in the material that you guys have on that drive. And if you want anything printed, I'd be happy to do that.
Perfect. All right, thank you. All right, moving on, line item E, form subcommittee for incubator program. Danielle?
Yeah, so in an effort to be proactive for our goals and planning and budgeting, I wanted to bring to this board an opportunity that I'm interested in researching and bringing to Romeo if it makes sense. Incubator programs have worked in many communities. They've been very successful, and some of what we were kind of just discussing, when new businesses want to come to town, there's a lot of upfront costs, and there's hefty costs with trying to get started. There's not really, you know, organized tools at their disposal, and incubator programs really help with that. There are many different ways you can do incubator programs, but I think we have a unique opportunity with our new space that we have available to potentially utilize it for that. I don't know if I need a formal subcommittee or if there's anybody interested in doing some research with me, but I didn't want to come to our goals and planning without any information and any idea of how much that might cost without doing any research. So I'm kind of looking to see direction. Maybe Zach,
Sure.
you can help if I need a subcommittee, if I can just move forward with it.
Yeah,
if it
so,
works.
so let's talk about it really quick. So I know, like, People's Driven, they've got, I think, some similar programs that they're going to want to implement, and I think they're going to be a good resource for that as well. However, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing due diligence on our end and getting some of that information prepared for the budget time. If you want to make a motion to form a subcommittee where you guys can meet a couple times and discuss it, lay out some numbers to bring back to our board come budget time, that would be fine. Or if it's just your personal thing that you want to take on and bring it to the board for subcommittee time, or for goals and objectives and budget talks, you can do that as well. I mean, I guess it just depends. Do you want to go through the process of formally meeting and getting together and providing a report so that it's an official subcommittee? I mean, that's anybody's motion to make at any time. So I think tonight, whatever you prefer, you know,
Okay.
whatever you're more comfortable with, and whatever you think is going to produce the best results, because I think you're right. We need to know what we're looking at come budget time, so nobody can just brush it off or say, well, we don't even know.
How much it's gonna cost or
Exactly.
whatever.
So if I could speak to, with their chief experience officer that's coming from the other credit union, so they are probably 3 or 4 months from being, they'll be completely merged into the people-driven system by March something, I don't have the date in front of me. But any idea that we may want to present has to go through their approval. And Steve Schmidt is their chief experience officer, and he wants to be part of this conversation, but they are literally they are absolutely all hands on deck with this merger. So they do want to be part of this conversation because it is their space. And so developing something like that would have to go to them. But he said that he'd be happy to be part of that, the workshop and orientation on the 22nd, if time allows for him to basically bring their experience as to what they were thinking as far as, and that was part of the reason why they wanted to do this, this lease with us as well, is because they can bring to the community as well.
So the lease for us, that upstairs, we don't necessarily have full
Carte blanche?
use of, I don't know the right word of, use or access of those spaces as we see fit. Is that accurate?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, we do have carte blanche as far as using it right now as we see fit, but not to create another entity or another outreach that might bring something in like that without presenting that to them. So they're asking for a little.
Even if it's a short-term, even if it's a 3-month lease or a 6-month lease, for
Yes, all that
them
has
to use
to be-
that space, it has to be approved by the credit union.
Correct, yes. And so they were asking, I brought some of this up with Steve. In fact, I met him on Saturday. He came for Winterfest. And he said if you could give us a couple months because we're not ready to dive into that conversation yet, but we want to. They're very eager to. They just do not have the time or the resources to do that just yet.
Sorry, I have a question.
Because incubator is very different than, say, some of the other things that there's a lot of different verbiages out there that may or may not work for them, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I have a question. I was not at the meeting when the lease was discussed and the new setup was agreed upon. Was anybody else aware of this?
No,
That the
John,
new space is
no,
not?
You're misunderstanding. I think what she's talking about is, she can't sublet it to somebody. And that's what they're talking, we can use it, we can enjoy it, we can do whatever.
Okay.
But to bring other entities who would have the right and the access, I'm guessing, to the building on a as-needed basis, they want to digest what's happening before she subleases it to some entity to come and use it.
So if I can clarify with Danielle, in your idea, is there subleasing involved? I thought this was just sort of having a facility that new people can come in, use, get information, that type of thing? Or did I misunderstand what you were interested in?
I think it's just the verbiage and how you craft the verbiage. But yes and no. So yes, they would be utilizing the space as basically their pop-up shop. So a new business could come into town and they could say, hey, I want to open a high-end jewelry clothing store. And I kind of want to try it out. I don't have a lot of, funds up front to be able to do that. This incubator space would help them do that. It would give them access to our tools and our expertise. It would help them potentially with creating a website. We could help them get their social media going. We could tell them best practices. What are your office hours? So their office hours could be whatever we decide, if the DDA building is open and we have set office hours, that's their business hours. They're not open, 8 o'clock at night or whatever the situation is.
So I know you want to do this research. You're not quite sure possibly of this answer, but you're not proposing subleasing.
No.
Okay, so, yes, we can use that office for it's a DDA office, we've signed a lease. My understanding is we can bring people in, give them information, let them.
But John, you're not listening. She's talking about, if I heard you correctly, you're talking them maybe set up a small shop within there so they can.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yes.
they would, but Yes, and that's why I'm saying that sometimes it's just the verbiage of how we're wording it. They don't necessarily have to even pay a lease,
And a better
similar to how
example,
we're not paying to
if-
use that space.
If we could secure space on Main Street for what she's suggesting, I
That's
think
an
it'd be
option too.
a neat idea, and we kind of pay for it somehow. Let these people use it, but maybe an insurance guy comes in town, or a whatever, a tax guy, and he needs a little professional office up there. Man, you know what, the bank may be agreeable to that, because that
Sure.
would be good clients for them to be bringing a bank, would say, hey, we'd like to see that foot traffic in here, because they may come down and open accounts, they may do this, they may do that. So the bank is very generous in what they're doing for us, and we have to be respectful of that. We can't, someone wants to compete with Carl, for instance, they can't go up there and put a little shop up there and having balloons and books and candy and stuff, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
The bank's just gonna not be comfortable with that.
And I wouldn't either.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I think we would craft this incubator program that we're trying to, part of the DDA mission, based on what I'm reading on the website, is to continue to cultivate businesses downtown and get them into long-term, leases, or owning of the buildings. And this would be a jumping off point for them. So yes, Greg, to your point, we don't necessarily have to use that space. We could find our own space and,
like that.
and do that. But that's really this research that I wanted to do. So I don't know if I still have to then wait for, to do that, or,
No, you don't need the bank's permission to do
Right, and
research.
I would almost say that might be beneficial to that meeting in 2 months, so that you have
Sure.
this more
Yeah.
nailed down, you have some clarity, you have numbers, you can define this better,
okay.
yeah.
So I would just, is there anybody interested in doing this research with me? Because if not, then I would just be on my own little
I
committee.
would be glad to be sort of an adjunct help to you on occasion, if there's, just because I have, some experience in the village of, opening a business and having it there for a few decades, and, of course, Carl's seen that too, and John and Zach, so there, I think, I'm not gonna speak for these guys, and of course Marty on the food side, but, I would be glad to interject or answer questions or help with a focus area or something like that, if there's some specific quantifiable stuff you're trying to
Okay,
sort out, like, the pitfalls or the hurdles of setting up, if you're gonna go in and do a food establishment, Romeo, things that
Right.
we saw jails go through, or if you're gonna do a front facade and rip it off and try to redo your signs and things like that, and things to those, I can speak to those,
Okay.
because I have the experience, so I'm
But
glad
and
to share.
maybe look into other people who
Yeah.
might want to volunteer on something.
okay.
So-
Jessica, I'm sorry, can we let Jessica say something or no?
Yeah.
Sure.
I have no problem with an incubator idea, but I'd be very careful about giving free website services, Xerox services, things like that, to only new people.
No, I don't think
I
it'd be
would
free.
like to open it up to the whole downtown. Maybe you have buy a color printer and everybody can help. Help all of the businesses get better at
That's
social
not a
media.
DD.
And not just focus on the new ones.
Way off the rails.
There's a lot of things you can explore with businesses that are already there, and even they can help and team up and help in your efforts as well. So just never forget about the people who are already there. too.
Right, that's a good point. I mean, we need to make sure that we are helping the people that are currently here be sustainable, be here for a long time. That is what helps drive where we're going, is that we have sustainable businesses that are here for the long haul.
And that's some of the expertise that Stephen's going to be able to bring to us to say, this is how it's worked in other communities, and this is how we might see a partnership. It's to your point specifically, Jessica, regarding the printer option, having that, I had a business right next to Zach, it was like, it would be so helpful just to be able to walk over there and, to be able to get something like that, because they don't have access to that in their space that they're in. So, and these are tried and true things that have happened in other communities. Look up the Vault. I know I've sent it to y'all. The Vault is up in Charlevoix. It's a very similar situation. But yeah, any help I can help give you on that, just let me know.
Okay, well, I think at this point then I'll just do the research. I'll,
Okay.
talk to some people and
Yeah,
See if
and
anyone wants,
have it for the budget meeting. That'd be great. That
Okay.
way we know what to expect.
And I can connect you with people in the MDA too, if you'd like.
Yeah, I know Dana and Kathy. I talk to them a lot, so I already actually talked to her, so that's good.
So I know Elizabeth had mentioned that the rooms upstairs in the bank, you're going to be able to rent those out?
No, that's a future idea.
Okay.
Yeah, no, nothing right now. No, nowhere near the talks on that at all.
Okay.
But those are things that can those are some ideas that the credit union wants to come and talk to us and, yeah, so no, not now, no.
Because
All
I
right.
just thought what we had said, told her, and then we're.
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm, no.
All right, next up, we have board member comments. Andrea,
No, I'm good.
President Poznanski.
No, Winterfest was great. Thank you for everybody who volunteered. Thank you for the many hours to Elizabeth and Madison. It's a job.
Thank you.
Not easy.
Carl?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to thank Elizabeth also for all the hard work she did. We had a really good weekend, so appreciate it.
Danielle?
No, Winterfest was great. I actually went down 2 different times downtown in the morning to see the 5K. I did not run in it, but I took video. So cheered everybody on, and it was great to see. Everyone seemed like they had a really great time, and the kids running, it was fabulous. And then I went to every store. I did the scavenger hunt with our family, and that was a lot of fun. Spent a lot of money at all the retail shops, and that was fun too. So everything was great. I talked to some of the retail locations, and they said they were having a good time, which was all wonderful. I just wanted to ask, I thought it might be great to have, speaking of communication, if there is an easy way for us to do a quick survey after these events, if you've already doing this, and a quick thing, not, nobody needs to write a book, but, how did it go? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? What did you like? What didn't you like? From the businesses' perspectives, whether it's dining, whether it's retail, whether, any one of them, just to get their feedback. I'd personally like to see that. I mean, it's one thing me just talking to them when I come in to shop, but it's certainly another to be able to see that feedback. So, well done. I really enjoyed myself Saturday.
And the survey does go out after every event, we do that, so yeah.
I love to see that.
Okay.
John?
Reiterate the same, Winterfest, thank you for all the volunteers and all the time and hours put in, greatly appreciated. The highlight certainly was that 5K. Unfortunately, I had to work, otherwise I wouldn't have run in it anyways. And then lastly, I had actually made a comment, I think it was probably the last meeting, just regarding, welcome to the new board, and I'm hoping we see some some feedback from everybody, and I can't tell you how happy I am just in this last month in the engagement from these new board members. And that's leading to some of the old board members to also become a little more engaged. So I'm very, very excited about that. Certainly not going to agree with everything. Not going to be happy with everyone, but at least there's engagement and there's discussion, which is extremely important, and that's what opens up this communication, and we don't have hidden agendas and what have you amongst all of us, because we know each other, and we're all at least trying to do the best we can for the DDA and in turn the village. So I just wanted to thank especially the new board members for that, because I have witnessed a lot of enthusiasm, and hopefully that continues.
I echo John's comments other than the part about the old board members. I'm not sure what he meant by old, but that's okay. I'll take it on the chin on that. And then also, as Carl said, great job, just getting this Winterfest up and running. And I drove through town a couple of times, was up early putting up the Bulldog with Taylor and a few things, and before the energy started, but I heard there was a lot of it, so it's good. Good job.
Marty?
Nope, just, a little bit of what you said and what you said, a little bit of everybody, so thank you. It was a good weekend. Appreciate everybody.
Yeah, I'll reiterate that. Thank you to the volunteers and Elizabeth and Madison and everybody who helped out that day. It was a good turnout, and, it's those volunteers. I mean, they put in a lot of hours, and they don't necessarily get a lot of the recognition either. And, adding the music to it, I think we had 4 different acts playing in our store throughout the day, and it just really added to it. We had chairs set up, and people were actually sitting down and watching the bands for a while come in. So it was fantastic. So, great job, everyone. Motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion by Rose, second by Hutnick. All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned.